week, the IDF announced that they are certain that Hamas leader Yaya Sinwar, the mastermind behind the October 7th terror attack in Israel, is hiding out in the massive Hamas tunnel network below Gaza and has surrounded himself below with Gazan civilians and Israeli hostages. Israeli officials released video a couple of weeks ago showing Sinwar and his family in the tunnels, the video taken shortly after October 7th, but officials say they believe he is still somewhere there in the tunnels below Khan Yunis, his hometown and Gaza's second largest city, and the site of intense fighting in the last several weeks. American military officials reportedly agree with that assessment of his location and that he surrounded himself with civilians. President Biden this week suggests there could be a ceasefire as soon as Monday, but Israeli officials and Hamas representatives, aren't particularly enthusiastic. Israel's Defense Minister Joav Galant is warning that Hamas and Hezbollah are pushing for that ceasefire so they can commit more acts of terror during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government have made it clear that when they say total victory, they mean until Hamas is destroyed. That includes, of course, getting or killing Sinwar. But like Hamas always does, he is using human shields to protect himself. But not just hiding civilians, he's apparently, who live in Gaza, but he's apparently surrounded himself with hostages taken on October 7th as well. So the question now is whether Israel is going to go in there and try to take him out. How much risk is Israel willing to take? How much should they take? Joining me now is Robert D'Amico. He's a retired FBI agent who spent 19 years working at the Bureau's hostage rescue team and handling international hostage cases. Thanks so much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, so this now creates a difficult situation for Israel. First, let me just ask you big picture. How much risk do you think Israel is willing to take in this kind of situation?
I think the risk may be too much. Netanyahu's getting tremendous heat from the families of the hostages. And you have to remember the hostages in Israel, they're looked at in a different light over there as part of the whole scenario with this. And I don't think it's even worth the risk because it's still a very high probability it may not work. And then you just end up killing hostages and innocent civilians and you don't have your prize. I think Israel's patient, though. I mean, if you look back on the 72 Olympic thing, how many years did they wait to get all those perpetrators in that one? But I think they're looking for the opportunity. They're looking for just that little blip where he may be alone that they can get him.
How much do you think they actually know? I mean, do you think at this point, to be this specific, right, to say, we know or believe that he is in tunnels in this city. We believe that he's surrounded by hostages and by civilians. That makes it sound to me like they may know exactly where he is right now.
They absolutely may. It's amazing what our intelligence agencies can do and what the Israelis can do. When we were hunting bad guys in Africa, in Somalia and Afghanistan, we would sit over targets and you would have intel analysts that knew, I remember we were going to grab someone and they started panicking because he went into a store and the intel analyst said, oh, he's getting his bread. And sure enough, he comes out with a thing of bread. That's how well they know their pattern of life. So I think they know a lot. And I think they're just, it takes a glimpse for that missile to release. Now, what they have to calculate is how much collateral damage they're willing to risk, like you said. So is it civilians? Is it hostages? They have to have that number in their mind when the target comes up because they only may have a few seconds to take it.
And I think that from Israel's perspective, there would be a big difference between Gazan civilians and Israeli hostages, rightly or wrongly. But I think that that would be a big difference in terms of the equation, right?
Like you said, right or wrong, yes, that's absolutely. We've seen sometimes where they get into a car and we can't identify everyone and they're not willing to risk the shot. But then when they get in a car and it's their own security element, that's a different call entirely and they're willing to take the shot.
So bottom line is, if the reports are true, which is Hamas leader hiding in tunnel underground, surrounded by hostages and civilians, you're saying you don't even think they're going to go in there?
I can't see it. A hostage rescue is just so inherently dangerous to begin with. And they're at this point where they're really starting to talk about the final stages of this. And I think Israel's patient enough. He'll definitely be #1 target if the war ends, and they won't forget.
Yeah, but it's only so long, I guess, they can be able to stay. I mean, if they know where he is, there's only going to be so long they can sort of stay in there, and even the hostages can stay in there. So, you know.
It's tough with the tunnels. He can move around. In the other places where you have to get out and move, that's where he'd be vulnerable, because I don't think he'd bring the hostages outside of that area for some type of, they may be more convenient to rescue. So I think he's going to stay in the tunnels. And unfortunately, they've had years to prepare those tunnels for long-term stays.
Thank you for watching.